let's kind of go back to the very beginning of this idea of why listings expire, right?
Mhm.
And does that have any sort of meaning around the price most often, or is it the house? I mean, what's your experience on that?
If we talk about luxury,
Mm-hmm.
it typically could be how it's staged or not staged,
Okay.
right? And staging, of course, is like super prominent in certain parts of the country, just now catching on in others. Little bit tricky though about how much money do I tell them to spend?
Mm-hmm.
Do I tell them to remodel the kitchen, remodel the bathrooms, gut the house, and usually no. Most of the top luxury agents agree that that's very dangerous because they may not get a good return. So if nothing else, at least just sprucing it up, lightening it up, moving some things out. So sometimes it's poorly shown.
Mm-hmm.
Then often it's not marketed well. You see some where they're marketed in the wrong area in the MLS, or the photos are horrible, or they have too many photos. There's no reason for anyone to even go. The other thing is often accessibility. Some of the sellers in the luxury properties make it really difficult to show the property. And if it's difficult to get an agent in, they're going to move on. I remember when Donna and I were shopping for a house last year in Newport, it was so frustrating because we would be calling on Wednesday or Thursday saying we'd like to look at the houses on Sunday. And of course, Don is an active agent, so he's calling the agents. And they're like, oh, well, that's not good for our seller. No, can you come at this time? Well, no, because we're going to be out. Yeah, that won't work. Why don't you come next week? Well, I remember very specifically, we said to one agent, we sincerely are interested in buying this one, but if we cannot see it, we cannot buy it. So if you don't get us in today, we will go buy something else. And couldn't get us in. And we bought something else. So agents sometimes need to crack the whip with their sellers and say, if you make it difficult, I can't sell your house.
So in the expireds, let's kind of walk through this. If an agent chooses to go that route,
Mm-hmm.
these things that you just said in the last couple of minutes are really great questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in that consultation. And so if that's the case, how would you guide or coach one of the folks that you have in having that conversation to unearth, are these folks difficult? And unearth the real reason why a home didn't sell.
Well, I would always start with their motivation and their timeline. In the luxury, there's a little saying, sometimes the agents will say time over motivation. So I might have to take it a little higher because they're not quite as motivated as they will be in 3 or 6 months. So you're measuring their motivation. Then I look at the desirability of the property. Is there something just really wrong with it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a really terrible location or a horrible floor plan? Things that are not repairable. So how desirable is this property? Then I look at the seller themselves. Are they crazy?
Right.
Or are they realistic and cooperative? And over time, I can work them into reality. So first I want to measure how good of a business decision is this going to be for me to get involved with these people, because it may take a significant amount of time and money invested. So if I feel good about that, then it really is a little bit like a doctor diagnosing. You're going to look at where it was listed, what kind of showings and offers it had. What's very interesting is often they'll get 2 or 3 offers within the same price point, but it's not the price point they want. But it's not coincidental that the buyers keep gravitating to that price. That's probably what it's worth. So what were the offers they had? And then even asking questions about, how often can we show the home? Let's talk about accessibility. And if you start getting a lot of pushback on that, you have to have that. Like if you said to me, well, Debbie, you can only show it on Tuesday nights between 4 and 6 and one Saturday a month. I'd say, well, then Diane, it's not going to sell.
Right.
It's just not going to sell, because as much as I know it's a fabulous house, agents are going to be too lazy to work around your schedule, or buyers won't conform and they will buy something else. We have to have a better plan. So you just start picking through what could have gone wrong, and having that honest and yet positive. Because if you come across to that seller like the angel of death, it's too high, it's too ugly, you're not showing it enough, they're going to kick you to the curb.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a dance.
Well, what I hear you being is firm. Okay.
Direct.
So yeah. So one of the, kind of as promised, what we're talking about is this idea of getting through to that next price point, and if that price point is now luxury. One of the questions I always get, and here in our class, is there's an intimidation and a fear around taking that higher priced home, because there's, how do you price it? And, if you can kind of walk through pricing strategies, because it's the thing I think I hear the most is, well, I took my first luxury listing and then it expired.
Right.
And, there's probably one, maybe two reasons why that occurred. And it was maybe a lack of experience in understanding how to properly guide the price. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. In fact, and it is difficult, because there'll be, in the luxury market, sometimes there is obviously no cookie cutter properties to compare to. So you have to come at it a lot of different ways, usually. One is remembering, if you're out there previewing property in your market every single week and you're studying your market, you just have a gut feeling, like, because you know what's out there and what's available. So you have to know the inventory. And then the second thing would be, I like to get in the mind of the buyer. So let's say that, I'm going to sell your house in Dallas, right? And I say, okay, so your house is very unique. Your area is unique. But let's think about the buyer that would buy your house. What else would they consider? Right? And see, I don't know your neighborhoods as well as I do mine, so I'll give you an example. If you were going to come and land at the John Wayne Airport and say, I want to live on the beach in Orange County, my neighborhood, you've been to my house, that's East Bluff and Newport Beach. But a buyer probably won't say, I just want to be in East Bluff. They might say, well, I would look at Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach. So I would say, so in our price category where our buyer might shop, what are we up against?
Right.
Because then that can kind of let you see, where will we be in the lineup. Then, obviously we look at whatever data we can. In some markets, cost per square foot is relevant. Other markets, maybe not as much. So you look at that. If you need to, you could even suggest hiring an independent appraiser. Once we list the property, we'll have an appraisal done. Take it with a grain of salt, but it'll give us, if we like the appraisal, we can showcase it out there that we have an appraisal at X amount. And also in the luxury market, what's often done is they'll bring from their own office or their own market a group of top agents that they trust and say, what's your opinion? And they'll get like a broker price opinion before it actually starts racking up days on market. Then an agreement with that seller, once we get this out there, what amount of time are we going to give this before we accept the fact that the market is not responding, right? And when we'll make that first adjustment.